Six minutes, comrades. This is Chief Gardner Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday noon until 2 on WRMN, 1410 AM, amplitude modulation. I want to make this very clear. We are not a podcast. We are live radio, 1410 AM, broadcasting 2,000 watts. And on a day like today with the cloud cover, we could probably bounce all the way to Indiana maybe. And okay, so you can call us in here at 847-931-1410. You could text us at 505-926-1410. Or you could hit us up on the YouTube chat. And was there another way? No. If you could stream us, if you can't quite hear us, if we're choppy there on the AM, switch over to your phone. Go to WRMN1410.com and hit listen live, or you could even listen on YouTube, and then you'll get YouTube and you could actually see us. So it looks like a podcast, but it's live radio broadcast with the YouTube live. It's kind of like YouTube's network, broadcasting on TV almost. All right, so Paul, I want to add one thing to the fixed bayonets. Don't be gaslit. Watch how would you say, defend yourself from gaslighting?
For sure.
Sure. Yeah. So I got brought this. I was just thinking about it, and there was like maybe one article that brought it up when I was deciding maybe what we should do as a topic, and it was like, all right, there's always the gun violence, always gun violence going off, always gun violence going off. And another civil suit against gun manufacturers because, they're omniscient and they should know who the guns should be built for and sold to and everything else. And everyone goes after that because no one's going after the family or the people that didn't have the self-control or the, basic safety procedures or whatever that allowed the stuff to happen. And, so I was thinking, well, why would they constantly go after something that's like a right? All right, it's a Second Amendment right to bear firearms. Well, where do you get them? Well, either you make them yourself or you get them from someone else. Not everyone is an armorer. Not everyone can manufacture a gun. I mean, there's 3D printers, everything else, stuff like that. But in general, if you want a high quality weapon, you go to a weapon manufacturer and they resell it through gun shops, much like automobiles. All right. Now, I don't believe there's any amendment in the Constitution that says that, the right to drive a motor-driven vehicle shall not be infringed.
It would have probably said something like a carriage.
Yeah.
And we would interpret it as a motor-driven vehicle with modern times. But no, you're right.
If they had done that.
I just want to give a brief shout out to Joe at Kevin Zabo Jr. Plumbing. Without him, I wouldn't make the show today, and without the plumbing company. So thanks a lot. I want to give a shout out to Joe and all of them.
Thanks, Joe.
Listen, it's kind of interesting to me that, I saw something on the news. And the mayor got this big press conference, and I got to confess, I was turned off by it. He's talking about this big thing about how they're not going to deal with certain gun manufacturers and things like that. And some woman, I don't know who she was, she got on the air and she said that 90% of them are great and 5% are bad. That's so ridiculous. Because there hasn't been a gun shop in Chicago since 1968. And you haven't been able to buy a gun within the city limits since approximately 1976 or 80. You used to be able to buy them at Sears or
Kmart,
Montgomery Ward's or J.C. Penney's or Herman Sporting Goods but that's such a ridiculous argument. They know that you can't buy guns. They know where the guns are coming from.
What did the mayor say again? What did the mayor say again?
They talked about that they're only going to do business with firearms with certain manufacturers and ammunition. I mean, that's such a ridiculous. They don't buy their guns
Well,
from any gun shops. They have the companies come
they
in
don't
and
buy any guns.
right. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's
Well,
pandering again, like we talked about
it's
the other week
it's more
to the
gaslighting.
voter.
It's more gaslighting.
It's just
But in the reverse, all right? So we like you said, there is a large gang violence problem out there, right? Large gang violence problem. And there's large violence problem and people without self-control or impulse control, right? No impulse control. And they get their hands on these tools that they probably shouldn't have, right? But oh
right.
no, it's not their fault, it's the manufacturer's fault. All right. So they're saying, no, it's not the problem that people are being raised without impulse control or people aren't being held accountable. It's the person supplying the tools. All right. And that's like part of the gaslighting thing. So he says it, and the press takes on, and all of his sycophants take on, and everyone takes on, and they all don't go after the problem. They redirect the problem because the problem is his constituents, right? The people they're going to vote for. He doesn't want to admit that that's where the failure is. And I was wrong. They probably do buy some firearms for the SWAT team. And, we used to call it the what did they have? The war wagons. So they had two paddy wagons loaded for bear, right? And if there was a situation, paddy wagons would just roll up, and the guys we didn't even have a SWAT team. The TAC team guys that were, quote, trained or certified would grab the heavy weapons out of that thing and use them. But if you're talking, the city's already hit, the police department, it says it's got to be a U.S. manufactured, all right, weapon. And then they had 38 or 357. Then they had auxiliary weapons that you could carry, but they had to be U.S. factory manufactured, right? So the U.S. factory had to manufacture. That meant Dan Wesson, Smith & Wesson, Colt at the time. All right, there was Ruger, yeah, those were the big ones. Then all of a sudden you had companies that came in and started manufacturing, like in the United States, the Berettas, right? So then they put limits on that. Had to be single action only. Now I believe all they could have is striker fired.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right. So they're putting very limited things for like a safety purpose, right? They said that that's safer for the officer and if it's safer for the officer, it's safer for the public, right? But they're gaslighting to believe that the guns are actually the problem. Well, Great Britain has proven that wrong for over 100 years now. When did Great Britain outlaw handguns for citizens?
Probably right around the time of the First World War.
Yeah, and then they also made it extremely hard to license long guns. You had to be very licensed hunting. You had to have special purposes. So that's really stopped all the homicides in Great Britain and the mass homicides and stabbings and mass shootings and stuff like that. Right, Paul?
Right, and the clubbings and the battings and the beatings.
Yeah, it stopped it all. It stopped.
Right.
It hasn't. You see?
Any ban stops it all,
Yeah, well, look at the 19th Amendment, right? Banning alcohol. Was that all right? Oh, that worked. So they had to have.
They changed it too a couple years later.
Yeah, they rescinded it because they're like, and that's one they figured out really didn't work. But here's the thing: even then you had a certain group of people that got very loud and gaslit everyone else to make it look like alcohol was the cause of all of our problems. It was alcohol. We'd be love and loving, everyone would be working and no one would be out of a job and there'd be no poverty. Kids would be growing up and they would all be super geniuses, highly educated, good people, good church-going people and everything. All you got to do is get rid of alcohol. What people didn't understand, you, some people would do without the alcohol. They'll find something else and they'll still be bad, right? And then it just became you telling someone they can't have it, so they go out and they get it. And then that money all goes to people that have very little care about society. So they just created a thing to fund it, but they used like a gaslighting, all the papers, abolitionists, all this stuff, and not abolitionists.
It created the whole concept of the speakeasy and the sub rosa, bathtub gin, and Granny's making it, and JoJo and everybody at the Rah Rah Club at the university are going blind drinking it. I mean, it's insane what they do. It really is. It's they it's like the law of unintended consequences. It's almost ridiculous.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing is that they have a certain focus. They're going to gaslight you. If everyone, they gaslight you. If everyone could do this, right? We don't care whether it's true or not, or whether we don't know if it's going to be effective, but we believe ourselves that it's going to be effective. And I'm talking about the people that believe it are the people that are playing with us as if we're one big giant Sims game. All right? And these guys are in control of the living Sims game. And they get out there to the press. Sims game, you could just type something in, use your claw, move people everywhere. But in this, they use their press, right? They control the press, and they said, the end result about this is we're going to wipe out, let's use the COVID vaccine thing. We're going to wipe out the COVID vaccine, because that came up again too with the little the little dude, the little Fauci. Yeah. All right, so it came up again with him, but they gaslit. They told everyone, if you don't get this, you're insane. If you don't get this, you hate Granny. If you don't get this, you're going to do that. And then all the press started rolling off with this. And then some guy would come out and say, no, scientifically, this is the true answer. I have no skin in this game, but this is the way it works, right? And they would make him, well, he's completely insane. And they're like, don't listen to him. And now, what do we got? We got 5 years later, 6 years later, right? All of a sudden, the stuff's coming out, how ineffectual this was, what damage it did, and everything else. And slowly but surely, all the people, all the groups that have gaslit everyone back then to make this so-called work for a better world, because they're smarter than us all, are suddenly reverse gaslighting. Oh, we never said that. Yeah, you did. I saved it. Oh, you must have edited that because, we wiped it off our servers. And how did you get it? Well, just because you wiped it off your servers doesn't mean that it still doesn't exist somewhere. Like the internet is forever, man. And you'll see all these influencers backing out now that were very strongly for that. But now that Fauci's crap has come out, right? His journal. And I'd like to read the whole journal. Not, unfortunately, he's probably gonna ask for royalties for that. But he did it on a government server. Here's how genius the guy is. This is what a smart man he is. Even I know that everything you do on a government computer is stored. Oh, well, that's my personal email. Nope. Went through a government server, stored. Every email you sent out through Hotmail or whatever, they've got it. Yep. Every government computer, every government computer out there has a, what do you call it? It has a keystroke recorder. All right. So anything you type in, it's going to record it. It's going to know where that's at. That's just basic security in your own brain. That's basic paranoia. You should know that. You're on the man's dime. All right? He's going to want to know everything you did. And anything you do on the man's dime is property of the man, right?
You got that right.
Right? So if I did my journal on a government server and saved it to a government server, Do I have any expectation of privacy for that?
None whatsoever.
Zero. So now it all comes out. And you know what? What is he going to say? Well, I was just writing fiction. Or, oh, I'm a narcissist. It's not my fault. I just love myself so much I wrote everything about myself. What he wrote there is the whole manipulation of the system for his own personal profit. For his, not just profit, though, but so he could be on TV. Because, oh, look at me. I look so good on TV. I'm so great. Bam. And this is the guy that they said, oh, why is he the highest paid government worker? Because he's been there 40 years, and I guess they get pay raises after a while. And he's at the SES level, senior executive service level. He's at the top of that stuff. And then he's getting professional pay because he's a doctor or whatever. Other things involved in that. So, like, just because you're the highest paid guy in the room, does that mean you're the smartest guy in the room, Paul?
No.
No. Because you got basketball players, baseball players, football players, right? That can't spell cat. They literally cannot spell cat. They're the highest paid guy in the room. The owners don't make that much. I mean, they'll own the team and everything else. They probably have more benefits. But they're the highest paid guy in the room. They're not the smartest. But the media's trying to look at, this guy's rich. He's a doctor. Hey, Paul, what do they call the guy that graduates medical school with straight D's and scores the lowest possible score while still passing on his med boards? Doctor, physician.
Dr. Fine, Dr. Mo,
Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Right.
Well, we have Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fraud, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fraud. He is a doctor. Yes, he did. But did he practice medicine ever? No, he got right in there.
I believe he was an allergy specialist.
Ooh, allergy. Nice.
Yeah.
So, that's nice to know. So you stick a guy with a bunch of pins and look, he's allergic to cat fur.
You brought something up about, that just because you're there, it doesn't make you the smartest guy. I had a bureau chief, and he actually was a policeman a long time ago. And when you're going to charge somebody, you got to write a memo. They call it an indictment memo, So I wrote this memo, and some of the crimes the guy committed were outside of the 3-year statute, but some were in. And there's always the thing called the statute of limitations extension for continuing series 3-8. Okay. So I write this memo, and he calls me in, and he's trying to impress me how stupid I am, right? And he goes, so you're telling me that we can charge this guy with thefts, going back 7-8 years? I go, yeah, because they're a continuing series and everything. And he goes, well, let me ask you something. He said, if Junebug commits a murder and he goes to Texas, you're telling me, that after 7 or 8 years, I could go and charge him? And I looked at him and I said, yeah.
There's no statute of limitations on murder.
Well, it's even worse. I said, there's no statute of limitations on murder, and the statute's told when you leave the state.
Yeah, it stops the time count.
He took my paper, threw it at me, and told me to get out of his office.
Yeah, well.
And he was the boss.
Yes. And you wonder why. Like I said, when I was in PSYOPs, the highest ranking guy in the room was a major, and we had this murder board. So he was the S3 and the head of the Propaganda Development Center. All right. And this had gaslighting has a lot to do with PSYOPs, but the U.S. Army, per doctrine, does not work that way. We don't work gaslighting. We only tell the truth. All right. We don't use gray or black PSYOPs. We just pretty much straight white PSYOPs. This is the truth, and we put it in a way where people can see it. But we don't want to give any lies. But But the thing was, here's this guy, right? And we're having an exercise in Puerto Rico. And he says, does anyone know the national anthem of Puerto Rico? And everyone's like scratching their heads. And here I am, staff sergeant at the time, like the lowest ranking guy in the room, right? And I go, I do, sir, and I can sing it for you. He goes, you speak Spanish? I go, no. And he goes, well, okay. I go, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's? I says, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It's a protectorate of the United States. All right? It is not its own nation. All right? It's not independent of the United States. And here's a guy with a college degree that has risen to the rank of major in the U.S. Army in psychological operations, which is special operations. And yet, all right, so there's a guy, again, where he's in charge and you're like, oh, geez, a simple thing like that. And, that's me being the jerk that I am. I probably could have done that a little bit better, but I was a young guy and everything. And I was always felt I was too smart for my shoes or whatever. And she could have just went up to the side and whispered in his ear, Puerto Rico's part of the United States. It's our own national anthem, sir. But it was funny. I couldn't turn back. It was funny. So,
or you could have said, "Yeah, good one, Major. Good one. You caught us. Since it's a territory of the United States, it's part of the United States, so it's the same national anthem." And then he'd say, "You're right." But that you could have gave him the out that way.
I could have. You're right, Paul. But I'm not as smart as I look. Oh. Which is amazing that I could tie my own shoes. All right, so going back with the gaslighting and psyoping things, and again with the guns, and we talked ad nauseum that really the thing that's killing the most people in this country isn't the guns. It's cars, right? It's cars. It's drugs, right? And they're not going after. Yeah, there's laws against drugs, and there's the war against drugs. And we're trying to stop it at the border, but people still make meth and everything. And there's always people that are going to want drugs, right? Like they're going to want alcohol. It's the same thing. Should we legalize drugs? No. There's a difference. I mean, yes, you could kill yourself in one day by drinking alcohol. You could actually get alcohol poisoning and kill yourself. And when we come back, we'll talk about the biggest gaslighters in the world. Comrades, Chief Guard of the Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN, 1410 AM. That's amplitude modulation, live radio. I stress again, this is live radio and not a podcast. Although I will, when I get home, sometimes it takes me a while, but I get home, I'll download it, and then I'll edit out the commercials, and then I'll re-upload it to YouTube on the Chief Guard of the Republic YouTube channel. So all of our shows are there. So we kind of look like podcasts, but you'll see me on these shows with WRMN News Talk Radio in the background. And we're also like Fox Sports, and the guys before me are the sports guys, and they do a real good show. A real good show. Everything I know about Chicago sports, I actually know from those guys. I'm not a big sports follower, but here we go, Paul. Who do you think, which overall industry is the biggest gaslighters combined in the world? Probably
I would say just from pure speculation, the energy industry.
Oh, that's I don't think. Well, I get where you're going on that, Paul. But no one uses gaslights anymore.
No, but I would say it has to be, because of the stuff that they say, and I would think that shout out to my neighbor. They gave me a clamp thing to use for a tablet, and I'm able to have both phones in front of me at the same time, which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the social media sites. And
Well, yep, you're right.
the reason I say that is because newspapers print, right? They print
Uh-huh.
that day. That's it, right? And you can't really change it. And it's kind of hard for them. They literally can't change it. It gets stored in a library somewhere, and you go back 100 years and say, no, this article is what you wrote 100 years ago. That's why I said psyops in the military, why you have to tell the truth. Because if you tell a lie, right, and it comes out, even 10 years ago, you find that you've lost your credibility, all right? You lose your
Right.
credibility that way. But social media doesn't care about the credibility. They create an algorithm, all right? They're algorithms. They're decision matrices within the program that tells them who's going to see your posts, how you're going to see your post, when they're going to see your post, if your posts even get out there, if you could be on there. And they call it shadow banning, right? And it's not shadow banning. It's just the algorithms. But the algorithms are written so that certain points of view, all right? It's like it's like if you're turned the dial, all right? Well, you're sitting there and turning the dial, and here was like the old poker machines in the old 24-hour restaurants. This is going back to the 70s and 80s, right? And they got raided by the county, and the county found that there was a switch running to the back of the kitchen there that ran to all these machines, and they could change the odds on the machines just turning the switch. All right. So like the social media is there, and they have to have a slide thing like over here on the control board that Andrew's working, a slide thing that says more conservative, less conservative, more liberal, less liberal. Let's add some more communism, they throw that one all the way up, right? It depending on the mood of whoever's in charge running that board, and the person that's literally running the board is the guy that has the ownership in it, who has the most stock. Yes, he has to have a fiduciary responsibility to the other stockholders. But they're never really losing that much money. I mean, they did lose some money for a while. It was a big loss. But so they can manipulate millions of people at once. And here's another way they can manipulate the stuff, all right? Because they control the accounts, all right? Now, if I wanted Chief Guard of the Republic, right, to have a million hits, I can do that. It would just take me a while. I would start creating more and more and more and more and more accounts in YouTube. And then I would just take each of the account and I would go, okay, I'm going to subscribe to Chief Guard of the Republic. Boom, 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 boom. Until I get a million hits, right?
Right.
I got a million hits. Oh, look, I got a million subscribers. When in reality, it's just one. But if I control the code and the company, anytime I want, I could create a million of these, right? Just put a thing and say from 0 to 1 million and say, Donkey Kong. 00001 Donkey Kong, 00002 Donkey Kong, and create all these accounts, right? And then using the code, subscribe to these channels, and all of a sudden, I got a guy looking like he's got 1 million followers, right? When he doesn't. So that's one of the things the Chinese do, is you could pay people to make your sites look like they're more popular. But you're just paying for that, right? Is it that popular? But the numbers are what basically gaslight the people. Hey, he's got to have something going because he's got 1 million followers. How many of them are real? They're saying that out there, maybe about 20% of the actual accounts out there in Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and stuff, maybe 20% of them are actual real people. And the other ones are just bots. Like one girl sitting there watching 100 tablets on the wall. You know, she's got 100 accounts going, and she's manipulating things, right? So she's the main user there, and you're following what she says. So when I dug in further, because they're saying guns are the problem here. But Paul, before social media was going to ruin our children, what was going to ruin our children?
The television.
Well, okay, we're going. That's even further back. But I'm going to go in reverse, like chronological order. So ultra-violent first-person shooter video games, like
Right.
Grand Theft Auto, right? Oh, that's going to turn all of our kids violent. We got to ban them. We got to put, controls on them, licenses on them, everything else. And we got to have a group of Karens to make sure that everything is all happy and unicorn and everything else, right? And before that, it was, oh, no, it's rap music. And before that, it was heavy metal. Oh, heavy metal's going to ruin our children. And yes, before that, it was simple rock and roll. But television's going to ruin our children. I've had all those things. I'm still okay. I know the majority of